Ali Abdaal just confessed to his 240,000 subscribers that he's struggling with body fat. I have over 13 years of training experience and I've been an online strength coach for 4 years, and in the next couple of minutes I'm going to show you exactly what he's doing wrong and the 5 steps Ali should do in order to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, that you can also do if you're in the same situation. More specifically, we'll talk about his 3 main conclusions and why they're completely wrong, what is changing because of it after doing some research and talking to his coach, and why I think they're the exact opposite of what he should do, and also the 5 steps that he should do to skyrocket his progress without any bullshit calorie tracking or endless gym sessions. As you can see, after 3 months, Ali Abdaal did a DEXA scan to examine his body composition and compare it to 3 months prior. In this period, he lost 1.5 kilograms of body weight. But the problem is that his body recomposition is going the wrong direction. He actually lost 2 kilograms of muscle mass and he gained half a kilogram of body fat. This is the worst nightmare for any guy or gal that is trying to lose weight and still keep some muscle. After talking to his coach, he reached 3 main conclusions, which are absolutely wrong. The first one is that he's in a calorie deficit. To be honest, I don't even know why this is even a conclusion. It's something that he was already striving for. It's something that he says in his email that he's been trying to lose weight. So it's only natural to assume that he will be losing weight if he's in a calorie deficit. This has nothing to do with how much muscle mass or fat mass he will gain over the course of months. I mean, it's just basic laws of thermodynamics, right? So if he's in a calorie deficit, he loses weight. But once again, tells us nothing about muscle or fat. The second conclusion was that his protein was too low. Honestly, I don't think it has nothing to do with it. It depends on how much training experience Ali has, but basically beginners can grow muscle and lose fat almost through breathing alone. As long as you're working out a bit, there should be no issue in gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. In fact, a study from China just off the press that was published in 2024 in August showed that calorie restriction of 500 calories per day alone was enough to lose fat. More specifically, a kilo after 4 weeks. Yes, it's true, they also lost muscle, but the key point here is that Ali gained fat half a kilo, even though in this study, for instance, they actually lost more than a kilogram of fat in 4 weeks alone without any training whatsoever. And these people only consumed a maximum of 25% of their total calories as protein. And in this case, this equaled around 85 grams of protein per day, and based on their average body weight, which was around 58 kilograms, this actually means that they're only consuming 1.5 grams of protein per body weight of kilogram, which is way below what he will propose afterwards, where it's basically 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So once again, this conclusion makes no sense to me. The third conclusion is that his training is just too low. He's only working out 2 to 3 times per week. If I'm being honest, this is probably the worst conclusion he could have reached. There's no point in working out more and more if you don't have your basic lifestyle guidelines in place. And to be honest, for most people who have daily jobs, stress, bills to pay, and so on, 2 to 3 times per week is more than enough to keep building muscle and lose fat. Once again, the exact study that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, the same people with no exercise whatsoever and a 500 calorie per day deficit, they actually lost 1 kilogram of fat on average in only 4 weeks. The complete opposite of what happened to Ali. And on top of this, the guy is already walking 15,000 steps per day. This is more than 99.9% of the population already. So he's doing a lot of movements that should not require him to train more than 3 times per week. My hats off to Ali, because he's actually adjusting his lifestyle and his training to make sure that it goes in the right direction. There are basically three things that he's gonna change. The first one is that he's gonna be tracking protein to reach 180 grams per day. This is an okay goal. I'm not too worried about it. I think it might be an overkill, especially based on some of the other things that I'm going to talk in a couple of minutes. But this is generally a good goal to have for anybody that is trying to lose weight but keep muscle on. But in fitness, there are a lot of other things that you should also be tracking and at least considering in your nutrition and training. Calories, fats, micronutrients, exercise, movement, stress, that sort of thing. So it's not only a matter of tracking protein, but tracking a lot of other variables, but perhaps in an easier way than, being on an app. The second adjustment that he's doing is taking autonomy of his training. Once again, this is relatively good overall. You should be accountable and responsible for your own training and development, but I don't think he appreciates how much thought goes into putting a training plan together. And it's not only in a training plan, anybody can put the training plan together, but to understand all the variables that go along with it. As he said it himself, he's quite busy, he's traveling, he has a YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers, he has a team of 20 plus people working for him, so there's a lot of stress and stuff that is happening around training that he needs to account for. And not only that, perhaps he doesn't have the time to understand all of these nuances, to do research, and change the program accordingly. In my opinion, you should just have somebody with experience putting the training together, nutrition plan and lifestyle guidelines for him. The third thing he's changing, he's starting the 5-3-1 Wendler strength program. To be honest, I've done Wendler for only a couple of weeks. For me, I didn't really appreciate the training, and I think that for him, it's actually the worst decision ever. Wendler program is a strength-biased program where you're basically doing 5-3-1 sets of linear progression, more or less, in the three main movements of deadlift, squat, and bench press. However, his main goal, and for most people working out is just recreational athletes, the goal is mainly hypertrophy, right? So to build some muscle mass, to kind of have your muscles pop a bit. On top of this, the lower the rep range you have, the more intensity you put on each rep, the higher the weights should naturally be, and therefore the more neurological drive and the more in tune with your body and with the exercise and with the movement you need to be. And this is where other lifestyle factors such as sleep, stress, nutrition, your environment, your mindset play a big role in how well you perform these movements and whether you can stay injury free as well. He's doing this to making training more fun, which should be one of your primary goals whenever you're training, because the funner it is, the more consistent you stay with training. And this should be goal number one for your training. But enough talking about his conclusions. These are the 5 steps I would do if I was Ali, and also that you can do if you're in the same situation. My first point, and this is non-negotiable, is to focus on sleep. I don't know how much you know about Ali, but for the last couple of years, he's been traveling around the world. He's a digital nomad. He has a YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers that uploads every week. And he's also traveling back and forth between the US, Europe, UK, and so on and so forth. And he has 20 plus employees spread all over the world. And what concerns me the most is that in no point in his 1,000 plus word email does he mention sleep. As his coach, the first question I would ask him whenever he showed me these results would be, how's your sleep? Because you can only train as hard as you can recover. And there's no point in increasing a training frequency, which is what one of his main conclusions were, if you're not recovering from each training session. Long story short, sleep is the best performance enhancer in the world. You don't believe me? Well, a 2010 study on sleep and weight loss compared people, the same people that were sleeping 5.5 hours per night versus 8.5 hours per night. And the results were astonishing. Lack of sleep, or sleeping 5.5 hours versus 8.5 hours, increased muscle loss by 60% and actually increased fat gain by 55%. Isn't this exactly what's happening with Ali, where he's losing a lot of weight and he's gaining mass on top of the weight that he's losing? And on top of this is only a minor detail, but I think it's important to mention, is that the people that I just mentioned were only consuming 65 grams of protein per day. They were in a very low calorie diet, and these results still hold true. Funnily enough, protein was even lower than fat. This is why for me all of this protein focus, to be honest, it's a big trend in 2024, and I think people should still aim for their protein levels, but it's not the holy grail of muscle mass and fat loss. We also need to consider all of the other factors involved. And the second step that Ali should focus on is stress. More specifically, in reducing it. I just said that Ali has a lot of stuff on his plate. The 2 million subscribers on YouTube, the 20 plus employees spread all over the world, is starting new companies from physical products, software products, cohorts, all of that stuff that is eating up a lot of his time, and he's also been traveling all over the world. So I think it's fair to assume that his stress levels are quite high. And on top of this, he's a productivity expert. And this might mean, at least for me it does, that the more productive you try to do, the more self-pressure you put on yourself, and inherently the stress levels go a bit higher. Therefore, my focus here would be to try to reduce stress as much as possible. Delegate, box breathing, maybe meditate. It is highly personalized, so it really depends on your taste and what you would like to do and what calms you down. The third step would be to track protein and everything else as well. Just like Ali, I hate tracking stuff. I cannot do it more than 3 or 4 days in Chronometer. It's just burdensome. It takes a lot of time. You need to measure food. You need to understand what the ingredients were, to understand the cooking method, all of that stuff that is extremely complicated. And for most people and parents, it's just too time consuming. But I'm here to tell you that there's a better solution. This is something that I use personally after 13 years of training experience, and I can tell you that for most people it is the ideal way to track all of your food and to make sure that you're staying on track for your body goals. I didn't invent this method, but I think everybody should be aware of it. And it's called the hand portion method, which was developed by Precision Nutrition, where I took my certification in nutrition. If you want to know everything about the hand portion method, click the link in the description. You have all that you need in there. In Ali's case, I would start with 2 hand portions per meal for a total of 3 meals per day, which should be fairly doable for him and for you as well. This should be more than enough to keep up with his protein levels and also have a holistic approach to nutrition. Not just focus on protein, but focus on the whole nutrition itself. And I want to stop here for a minute. Have you noticed that we have not mentioned whatsoever training? The 3 steps that I just mentioned have no correlation or have no mentioning of training, which was one of his main conclusions. And why is that? Because sometimes it's not all about training. If you think about it, we only spend 3 to 4% of our lives, of our weeks, in training, in the gym. So why should we focus all of our efforts in training? Keep in mind, we should think about fitness as a whole and not just training. Having said that, my 4th step to him would be keep training as it is. It seems that he's already training 2 to 3 times per week, which is enough for him. Maybe he would need to increase the intensity, so not being texting or answering phone calls or whatever. Just focus on keeping your training intensity high, and also, like he said, perhaps make it more fun. Work with your coach to understand what exactly you think fun is, because it is different for everybody, and sprinkle a little bit of fun here and there so that you keep making progress and you keep your consistency high. But I can tell you one thing for sure, is that the more results you see, the funner you think your workouts will be. Just my 2 cents. On top of this, he's already doing 15,000 steps per day. It's more than enough movement for the week. So here's what I would do specifically. Ditch the 5-3-1 Wendler. It doesn't make any sense for your life. Focus on big compound movements. Deadlift, rows, bench press, pull-ups, push-ups, that sort of stuff. Train with intensity, even if it's just for 30 minutes. And finally, just like I said, have fun. Enjoy being in the gym. You should be excited to go training. If it's a drag to put on your shoes and go to training, you will never keep consistency. And there's nothing else training related that you should do. But the 5th step that you should probably do, Ali, if you're watching this, is to get a smart scale. Probably you have one already, maybe not, but my personal preference is the Withings Body Smart Plus scale. It's around $100, so a bit on the expensive side, but it is really good to keep track of the main body measures. Body weight, fat mass, muscle mass, and obviously body fat percentage as well. And the goal here is not to see exactly day by day how you're progressing, but is to spotting some of the trends. And I would argue that probably if you had used a smart scale in the last 3 months, you would have noticed that your body fat percentage or your fat mass is increasing while your muscle mass is decreasing almost exponentially. This is a great way to reevaluate what you're doing in terms of sleep, stress, lifestyle, environment. Your mindset is also important, and see what you can adjust to break off this bad trend. Practically speaking, you should probably measure yourself on a daily basis. After waking, before going to the bathroom, you just put on the scale in the same circumstances. So if you wear a t-shirt, always wear a t-shirt. I personally do it with boxers only. It's the best way if I'm sweating or not sweating and so on. And this way, you can track over time how your body is reacting. For instance, I give you a great example that just happened to me this week. I've noticed that my body weight is going down significantly. So every day I'm almost losing 400, 500 grams per day, which is the opposite of what I'm trying to do. And this tells me that I'm not eating enough. I don't need to wait 3 months to know that I'm losing weight, that my body composition is not what I want, and so on and so forth. By getting a smart scale, you can track this from the comfort of your own home. But Fred, isn't a DEXA scan much more reliable than a at-home smart scale? Of course it is. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to be the most accurate as possible. We're just spotting trends. That's it. And to be honest, the majority of fitness and health is about spotting trends. When you go to the doctor says, hey, your cholesterol level is quite high. What do you usually have? But enough ranting. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to check out the link in the description for the hand portion method. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.